Bonewerkz was where the bones would be sent to be processed. And these bones would be used in various types of products because they had special ingredients. And then you're into the lore of and the history of cannibalism and sorcery. If you think of, in Africa, it was voodoo, which became voodoo in Haiti. Like there's oftentimes, bones. And if you just think of classic, you're in the UK, Dan, right? Think of classic old pagan, witch practices, and you'd say, oh, a bat's eye and two frogs' legs and a squint of this and a pinch of that, classic wizard making their brew. So Bonewerkz was a big industrialized place that had industrialized the processing of, for lack of a better word, human bones. So it was Mudokon bones. And out of that, it had various properties. Some of them were simply material, meaning chemical, and others had more supernatural properties, which is how it came to be used. I've always been kind of fascinated by the history, not as a practitioner. Like I have no interest in practicing the occult or things like that. I do believe, we have the power to manifest our dreams and positive visualization. I believe in those things, but I'm not a practitioner of things, right? But I do a lot of research because I like to understand the operating system of such. And oftentimes in, let's say, witchcraft or voodoo, you will find traces meaning fingernails, pieces of the individual, which you could say DNA traces to the target. And oftentimes, if you, even to this day, if you went to witches or witch doctors in certain places in the world and say, I want to cast this curse on this person, it happens all the time, all across the world. In Saudi Arabia, they still, stone women to death for practicing these things. And I'm sure it would be men too, but we hear the stories of women. And so if you wanted to cast a spell, the witch doctor would tell you, I need a trace of that person. Bring me fingernails or hair or something like that. And those would be the things that people would easily collect of someone else. And then that would become part of a binding that would become a spell that would be used to basically influence and control that person. So if we took that sort of metaphysical concept and inflated it up to an industrial scale, then we start to say, well, in our modern world today, we largely think of industry as something that processes physical materials, outputs a physical good or service, and that's about it. Some of them are better for your health or some of them are better tasting. But if we said, well, this world, they haven't abandoned the metaphysical ways, the sorceratic, witch doctor-like ways. It's just evolved with industry. So the idea of Bonewerkz was that the bones hold a lot of properties, some of them physical, some of them metaphysical. And then those are sent to different industries. And then in the case, of course, of Exodus and Soulstorm, it was the brew. So we focused on the brew that was what was the primary industry that was using it to keep the people suppressed. So Bonewerkz as a hub itself, different lines would be going off to different industries, pharmaceuticals, food, for different purposes, but some would be for the physical properties and some would be for the medical physical properties.